I want to talk a little bit more about the XP Pro and the rollover that I had that caused extensive damage that I don't believe should have caused that much damage, and where we're at in the repair process and parts process and dealing with Polaris. So as you can see by the condition of the vehicle, obviously I still don't have parts. Still been arguing with Polaris about when and where they're coming from, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But right now, I want to talk about some more likes and dislikes and how things are coming along with putting it back together and getting it back up and running. Today, my Pro Armor doors showed up. Got the passenger door mounted. I like it. Seems pretty stout. Looks pretty good. Much more solid than the factory doors. It comes pretty complete except for the latch assembly and the hinges that you have to take off of the factory doors. But the frame, some screws, and the door fillers all come with it. So you lose the big hole in the back of the door, and you also get a little bit more height up here in the front, whereas the factory doors are kind of down here, and these come all the way up to the top of the black part of the fender flare, which is nice. For me, the more coverage, the better, because I live in Ohio and it's muddy most of the time. So I've been working on this door mount of the frame over here, trying to get it straightened out so I can mount the driver's door. And I've got the back fender off, because that part still hasn't shown up. Nobody knows where it is or when it's coming. But I noticed while I had that fender off, you can see some ends of the frame tubes here. And as Polaris has advertised, this is the strongest razor they've ever made, according to them. But I noticed that the frame tube looked awfully thin to me. So I broke out my handy measuring device. I wanted to check the thickness of the frame. As you can see that it's under a tenth, so you got 0.0935. And even on the big 2-inch section that they're so proud of their 2-inch frame, .0725. That, to me, is awful thin material. And in my opinion, that's why it bent so easily. Like I said in the last video, it was a slow-moving rollover. Went over on its side and then proceeded to roll over and landed on the roll cage, which to me was pretty shocking that it went all the way over and landed completely upside down. But because of that experience, I figured out that the factory Click 6 harnesses work excellent, because I was suspended upside down quite nicely, was not injured, and I was held in place just as advertised. So the seats are outstanding. The harnesses are fabulous. The overall structure, I'm still not impressed with. And I also, one more thing that I don't like is, I don't know why they decided on this razor to take the floor plugs out. All the other razors in the front floors, the XPs and the XP Turbos, have those nice plugs that you can remove so you can get all the mud and debris and whatever goes in there while you're riding and flush it right out with a hose. This one, they put some slots on the edge of the floor that are about probably 3 inches long by maybe 3/4 of an inch or an inch tall. They thought that would be sufficient, but in my experience, the floor drain plugs worked much better and they were much easier to clean out any excess mud or dirt or whatever you get in there from riding. But that's really trivial. Not a big deal in the big picture. So with that frame measurement, I've also got this RS1. There's not a lot of areas where you can get to the end of the frame tube, but there are a couple. One being right here at the end of the roll cage. There, I'll flip that over for you. Where the heck did it go? You can see that 0.1080. And then down here at the bottom of the frame tubes, near where the radius rods are, you can get that frame there too. And again, 0.1085. So, I know it's not an XP, but it's based off of the XP. I'm going to assume that they use similar metal in the frame tubes on the XP and this one. And they've gone to much thinner material on the Razor XP Pro. So they're calling it the strongest razor ever made because the frame is now a one-piece tub instead of bolted together in the middle. But using thinner material, in my opinion, was not a good idea, as evidenced by a light rollover bending the frame. Like I said in the last video, I had an XP 1000 before this, a non-turbo, and I put that up on its side, and it did minimal damage, next to none. And this one, on a light rollover, was $11,000 worth of damage. So, my confidence in the product and the company is pretty much dwindled to nothing. And my experience with Owner Connections, which is the Polaris customer service line, has been ridiculous. I've probably called them 10 times about the availability of parts for this product. And I wanted to know why they would release the product to the public without any support. I mean, there's basically almost no parts available for this thing. So if you buy one and you have a problem, whether you wreck it or run it into a tree or roll it over like I did, and you need plastics or you need door skins or you need radiators like I do, like I still haven't even figured out how the heck these radiators got so mangled just from rolling over. But I think when it went over on its top, it kind of teetered down onto the hood. Really not, I mean, this was not a hard tumble or a hard crash, and this was on soft dirt. Not quite mud, but soft dirt. And it just destroyed everything. Much to my surprise. I was just removing the front plastics to replace the plastics because the plastics were destroyed. And then I looked down here and said, so that doesn't look right. Sure enough, both radiators are all bent, twisted, destroyed. So after many phone calls to Polaris Owner Connection, I finally worked my way up the ladder and got to the executive manager of the Owner Connection department. And she helped me to get the parts ordered on a vehicle down order. And she said that if the parts are not available through regular connections or through their sources, that they would pull the radiators off the assembly line. So I was slightly encouraged that I was going to be able to get my vehicle back together and get it up and running. So it wasn't just sitting here depressing me. And that was about a month ago. The first arrival date was supposed to be October 25th. So I called on the 26th and she said, well, it's been pushed back to November 4th. I called on November 5th. Now it's been pushed back to an indefinite don't know when they're going to show up. So while I had her on the phone, I started asking her what happened to this vehicle down. You said they were pull the parts off the assembly line. So are you telling me that the assembly line is shut down because they don't have radiators? And her answer was her standard, I don't know. I said, how can you not know if these vehicles are being produced, and if the assembly line is not running? You're an executive in the company who's been there over 20 years. And she just kept saying, I don't know, and I'm sorry. I don't know, and I'm sorry. And I told her that I don't know and I'm sorry is not getting my vehicle back together. And she just continued to apologize and say, I don't know. So then I asked her where the assembly line is. Are these built in Mexico? Are they built in the United States? Are they built in China? And she said, I don't know. So then at that point, this is an executive who's been with the company for 20 years. The manager of the owner connection department doesn't know where their most popular product is built. So right then, my faith in the company continued to deteriorate. And that frustration grew, and I asked her to talk to somebody who might know where these parts are coming from, when they're going to come, how I'm going to get them. I paid for the parts over a month ago, and they were not cheap. Those radiators are $300 a piece, so I got $600 in radiators. The fenders, believe it or not, just the white part of the fenders go up here are $400 a piece, so that's 400 and 400, that's $800. The white part of the doors, the factory doors, just the white plastic, not the frame or the blue insert, is $400 a piece. The rear fenders, just the white part, not the lower, which is much bigger. White part of the rear fenders, $400 a piece. So you've basically got $2,500 worth of plastics on this machine. And the plastics are not very durable because it went over and the plastics were destroyed. Even on the side that didn't hit the ground, the mounting tabs all pulled off of the plastics. I don't know from just the shock of the rollover or what, but you can see there, I got some zip ties on it because you can't get parts for the damn thing. So I've got it all zip tied because all of these little plastic mounting tabs just ripped right off. Even on the side that didn't hit the ground. So here I am a month later with the thing still in pieces with no answers from Polaris, and they have no idea what the heck they're doing, where the vehicles are built, if they're being built, where the parts are coming from, when they're going to show up. So I am personally astonished that a company this big that's been around for this long, you can talk to an executive, a manager in the company, and they have absolutely no idea what's going on. So there's a lot of guys that like Polaris out there. I was one of them. I've spent a lot of money with this company.